Now, to help enable those things, I also talked about a number of other reforms. To the Urban Cooperation Act, the PARA, to get some of the impediments and barriers to service consolidation out of the way, to make it much easier to do those activities, in terms of encouraging collective bargaining to take place earlier and better in the process. So we're going to make it simpler and easier for people to look at those kind of opportunities to work together. One of the other things we're also talking about as part of that process is a reforming Public Act 312. Not the elimination of the act, but actually improving it. And that was feedback I got both from jurisdictions, but also the labor side of the equation. Because a number of labor groups said this process takes too long, or has issues. So some of the reforms we're proposing there came from both labor and the management side of the equation. So that's another area we're going to work hard on. With respect to the question of consolidation itself, though, I did make one point that we are going to try to create some enabling legislation that could impact the counties, you in particular. But I believe it's all at your choice, and it's your opportunity. And that's really the question of consolidating city and county government within a particular county. To essentially come together with the largest city potentially in your county and say, let's create one government out of it. The state's not going to force that, but we wanted to create a format, a template, that would make it easy to say at some point in the future, if people want to look at that option, it would be available. Because it's been successfully used in other parts of the country. Indianapolis, Jacksonville, places like that. So we can be forward-thinking, as opposed to just staying in the old world that we've been in for so long. In terms of other topics, in addition to revenue sharing and these ideas about service sharing and partnership, there's a number of other key topics that I believe we have good alignment in from what I saw of your agenda. One of the first ones is tourism. Pure Michigan. That's been a priority. In fact, I'm proud to say I already signed legislation taking care of the current year. The ads are already up. Actually, they're really good ads. I'm proud of them. And we're going to work hard to make sure we continue that funding level for at least the next 2 years, as we've shown in our budget. Because tourism is one of our key industries. So that's something to look at. Another topic that I know is high on your list is infrastructure. We have crumbling roads and bridges in our state. There's just a report recently about our bridge condition. We do need to invest more in our infrastructure. And we will be focusing on that. That will be a special message in the second half of the year. To be open with you, I think I've loaded up the first half of the year enough where people want to get these things done. We need to get the first round done before we start on another round of initiatives. So infrastructure will be part of that. Just to give you a highlight, 2 others that will go with that, though, that I didn't see as highlighted as much. One will be on health and wellness. And that will deal with public health departments also. Because we need to be a healthier state. It's not just about great acute care. It's about us taking better care of ourselves to lower those costs to begin with. The other one will be workforce development. There's much better work we can do in workforce development in our state. We have some very good people working in that area. But it's a disconnected system. We can connect our economic development people with our community colleges, with our universities, with our K-12 system, and with Michigan Works much better than we do today. Because one of the fundamentals is job creation. So we need to look at those kind of issues. And that brings me to the topic of economic development, because I know that's an important topic. One of the things I've highlighted is to say we're going to change the focus to some degree on how we're doing economic development in our state. We had a model that worked really well, then we sort of lost our way over the last few years. A couple key elements that we need to do is we have to focus more on Michigan. We spent too much time going after a few big out-of-state companies with large incentive packages. And we didn't spend enough time on helping Michiganders build and grow businesses right here. Most jobs are going to come from small businesses and medium-sized businesses, creating jobs of the people already in our state. And that's going to be our primary focus. We will continue to go after some outside opportunities, but our prime focus will be on Michiganders right here. the sense of the MEDC role, we're going to make the MEDC more of a clearinghouse, a best practice center, a supporting center, and actually rely on you more in terms of on-the-ground people in the regions. Because good economic development happens by people in their communities, with good support from others. So you need to be on the front lines there of doing economic development work, of figuring out what issues, what challenges you have, sharing those with the MEDC, and letting the MEDC be your partner in breaking through those barriers is to say, what do we need to do to be successful? Two other parts to that is not just the work of the MEDC, though. One of those is tax reform. And that goes back to the budget and tax message. For us to really be successful, we need to get rid of the Michigan business tax, and I propose that. Now the challenge is, how do you replace the revenue? How do you keep the state going? And so that's the challenge people are dealing with today. But I believe our program is the right one, because it's all about job creation, and it's all about creating a tax system that's simple, fair, and efficient. So when you hear people talking about our tax proposals, two things. One, remember, whenever change comes, what's the first human nature reaction? Everybody likes change until it affects them, and then it doesn't look so hot. But if people spend the time to step back and say, is this about the Michigan of the past, or is this about the Michigan of the future and focused on job creation and our kids, this proposal really works well. The other thing is if you ask people where they end up after they make the change, ask them if they end up in a fair spot in terms of paying the same rate as everyone else. And the answer will be yes. So we do need to do that in terms of tax. The other thing I would say is we also need regulatory reform. And I know that's on your list. It's on my list too, being an old business person. So we've created the Office of Regulatory Reinvention. And we've got a business person running that, actually an attorney that did legal work from the business and corporate side for decades. And he's out after it already. To look at regulations that already exist to say, do they really need to be there? Because in many cases, I believe there's a lot of cleanup out there in terms of reports, information, other things that really aren't needed. And with respect to the counties, I know the topic of unfunded mandates always comes up. That's something we always need to be thoughtful to, and that's part of the regulatory reinvention process that hopefully will get looked at really hard. Are there reports out there? Are there other requirements that really don't make sense that we can see go away? That will be one of our key focuses. And going forward, in the government reform package, I actually talked about adding a fiscal note to legislation that involved municipalities, counties, other jurisdictions. That basically says we need to outline the costs to our partner jurisdictions, and to the degree we don't provide funding for that, that legislation should not take effect until funding's been provided. So we're on top of this. And one of the key things, key messages I hope you take with you is this is not about the counties being different from the state. That's been one of the flaws that we've had in our state for too long, is we've had a broken culture in our state. Going back to looking at the census and the issues of how we ended up in the problems we are today. We've had a broken culture in our state. We've had a culture that's too negative. That we've been too down on ourselves because we've been beaten up for so many years. We've spent too much time looking in the rearview mirror to say, this is what we got, how do we protect what we have? And we've been too divisive. Because of these tough times, we've looked at each other as adversaries too often and gotten too much in a win-lose mode. That culture has to go away. And I'll tell you, when I was running for governor, I still believe it today. The single hardest task that I have on my agenda, and it's not about me doing it by myself, is changing the culture of our state. By changing the culture of our state, we have an opportunity to truly reinvent ourselves. And that was what will make the difference in the long term. Not any law, not any regulation, but changing that culture. And what does that culture look like? That's a culture that's positive. that focuses on the positives of what we can do. And if anything, hopefully people have learned in our administration, the key phrase is relentless positive action. We are going to continue to be positive until you might get sick of it even. The second piece is to be forward-looking. To say we've had problems in the past. We will take responsibility. We will try to address those issues as best we can. And then we're going to look towards the future. To say the old way is broken, has not worked. And it is time to build a Michigan for the future. And that's the approach and attitude we need to take. And the last piece is we will be inclusive. Instead of building a model that says we're in conflict, the issue is we should be in partnership. To understand our goals are the common goals of promoting the well-being of our citizens. And my commitment to you is to partner with you and moving forward to say how we show our citizens that we are truly giving them value for money, real results for real people, and bringing us together in an exciting future that's focused on more and better jobs, keeping our young people in this state, and creating a legacy that goes long beyond our time in office for not only our children, but our children's children. I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.